with every hurricane, tornadoes are a concern, but it seems like the story of Hurricane Milton really is all of the tornadoes. Have you ever seen something of this magnitude, just as far as the number of tornadoes and the amount of damage they did?
Well, I mean, every hurricane we have a lot of tornadoes spun off. I think we may have had more tornado warnings on this one than the typical hurricane, I would think. But to see what happened here, sadly, that is not something that's uncommon. These tornadoes, I mean, when Mother Nature, I mean, this is just churning, things churn off these weather systems, and it's just devastating. And so this is unfortunately something that is kind of normal with the big storm. We probably had more warnings than we would with normal storms, but and especially the ones that come across the peninsula like this, you know, you could get it. I mean, you've got east coast of Florida, Palm Beach, St. Lucie, a bunch of stuff happened over here, and you were probably hundreds of miles away from the eye of the storm at the time those tornadoes were spun off. But that is just that is to be expected to a certain extent.
It's not due to global warming.
Tornadoes?
Yeah, to increase in tornadoes.
I think you could go back and find tornadoes for all of human history for sure, and especially, you know, Florida. You know, how does this storm rate in kind of the history of storms? I think it hit with a barometric pressure of, what was it, about 950 millibars when it hit, which I think if you go back to 1851, there's probably been 27 hurricanes that have had so the lower the barometric pressure, the stronger it is. I think there have been about 27 hurricanes that have had lower barometric pressure on landfall than Milton did. And of those, 17 occurred, I think, prior to 1960. And the most powerful hurricane on record since the 1850s in the state of Florida occurred in the 1930s, the Labor Day hurricane. Barometric pressure on that was 892 millibars. It totally wiped out the Keys. We've never seen anything like it, and that remains head and shoulders above any powerful hurricane that we've ever had in the state of Florida. The most deadly hurricane we've ever had was in 1928, the Okeechobee hurricane, killed over 4,000 people. Fortunately, we aren't going to have anything close to that on this hurricane, but even ones like Ian, where you had, wasn't even close to that. So, you know, I just think people should put this in perspective. They try to take different things that happen with tropical weather and act like it's something. There's nothing new under the sun. You know, this is something that the state has dealt with for its entire history, and it's something that we'll continue to deal with. I think what's changed is we've got 23 million people. A storm that hits is likely to hit more people and property than it would have 100 years ago, and so the potential for that damage has grown. But what's also changed is our ability to do the prevention, to pre-stage the assets. I mean, we never did the pre-staging of power assets until I became governor. Now people expect that, but that wasn't what was done in the past. That's why people would be out with power for 3 weeks when we'd have hurricanes. We thought that that's not good. Now we have to pay to get these guys to come in, but my view is the quicker you get everyone hooked up, the better off the economy is going to be anyway. So why don't we just do that? Having the different search and rescue, having a state guard, all these different things are just bringing different tools to the fight, and it allows us to respond more effectively. So if we had the tools that we had in 1928 to fight an Ian or to fight some of these, you would have had higher death tolls. There's no question about that.
Speaking of history, sir, how many storms formed as rapidly as they have between Helena and Milton?
Oh, I mean, I think most people remember 2004, right? Where we had seemed like you had them every other week in 2004. Then there's also time period, you know, we had from 2006 to 16, we had no hurricanes at all in Florida. There's also been times where we had a lot. The 1940s, we were getting hit a lot. You know, now more recently, we've had a spate of more. So that's just kind of the nature of it. But this really does. It has a lot of similarities to 2004 in terms of the season.
Yeah, Governor, a lot of folks, particularly quite a few who trust you and look to you for information, are possibly engaging in some misinformation about some entity controlling the weather. Can you take this opportunity to denounce that misinformation and set the record straight for folks who believe someone is controlling the weather?
Look, if I could control the weather, I would do 78 and sunny year round. Now we get that a lot in Florida, coming up in the months, but there would be no reason to ever do. So look, and this is on both sides. You kind of have some people think government can do this, and then others think it's all because of fossil fuels. The reality is what we see. There's precedent for all this in history. Like, it is hurricane season. You are going to have tropical weather. We hope that a lot of the tropical weather are fish storms out in the Atlantic that never impact us. The reality is anything that gets in the Gulf of Mexico, it's got to hit something. Maybe it hits Mexico, maybe it hits Louisiana, but Florida's one, especially if it's moved when they bend east. We're the ones that are going to do. So like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. These are natural occurrences. We will deal with tropical weather for as long as we're Floridians.
What about the role of carbon emissions in propagating said storms?
Well, I've already addressed the historical record of the storms in Florida. Like I said, our biggest storm, our strongest storm by far, remains the Labor Day from the 1930s.